standing here right by your side. I will be standing here till the end of time. I will be standing here all through the night, till the stars align.
Hey, everybody. I'm going to try not to yabber on at the beginning of this. I hate long, breathy intros for videos. I can't stand it when people just keep on talking. So, this is about the Holly Bobo case. Some of you know about the case. Some of you never heard of it. Some of you don't know some of the little secrets that were kept, or that maybe you just never heard about. I'll probably pop in every now and then, I may not, and say what I think. But these are just some of the highlights. You tell me if you think they sort of coincide with the Summer Wells case. And let's get on with it, guys. Listen up. Now, the voice you're going to hear is going to be that of Dennis Ferrer of the Ferrer Files. He did a special on the private investigator who they volunteered their services, and there was another special that goes with this that he did. I'm not trying to take credit from him. If I remember, I'll put the link for those in the description box, but if not, just go look up Ferrer Files and Holly Bobo, and you'll be able to find all of his work. Seems to be a great investigative reporter, and I believe he did a great job on the Holly Bobo case. So here we go, guys.
TBI came down so hard on this not-for-profit group of private investigators, they felt they couldn't even defend themselves. But now they feel it's time for you to hear their story. They accuse the TBI of bullying, intimidation, and abuse.
The Holly Bobo case was ice cold. 18 months after her disappearance, a desperate Karen Bobo contacted a Nashville private investigator named Sheila Wysocki.
Sound familiar? Sort of like when EquiSearch came in to help out with the Summer Wells case.
Wysocki made national news for solving her college roommate's cold case murder 20 years after it happened. Karen Bobo saw her on television and asked her to help with the case. Wysocki and her not-for-profit Without Warning came to the Bobos' house and collected everything the Bobos had gathered since the disappearance. An incredible amount of tips, handwritten notes, interviews the Bobos had conducted, and social media posts.
We were paid nothing. Not one of us was paid a dime. It actually cost us money to work on the case. People that could help her.
2 private eyes, 2 former homicide detectives, and a paralegal. And by Halloween of 2012, they already had a prime suspect. Here's that email. Shane Austin.
Other people can help TBI and local law enforcement if they're just willing to accept the help.
He agreed, noting that his friends Dylan Adams, Jason Autry, and Zach Adams may have also been involved.
It was really clear that I said if one of these guys did it, they all did it because they were each other's alibis. And I thought that was just, from a layperson standpoint, that was very obvious.
By April of 2013, the group of super sleuths had the A-Gang, Austin, Adams, and Autry as their main suspects. They had a ping map of Holly's cell phone locations the day she disappeared, and an evidence map. And they had something else, advice from famous kidnapping victim Elizabeth Smart's father, Ed, who told the Bobos, keep the story in the media, and no tip is too small. So that's when the detectives and the Bobos decided to go on television and talk about the evidence they had gathered. They shared theories, recreated the abduction, even drove parts of the ping map, all with the idea that maybe someone would come forward with information that would help find Holly.
These were simply our theories. We volunteered our time just to help a family.
And what happened?
I believe we were stomped as hard as anybody has ever been stomped. They wanted us to go away and shut up.
Once again, does that sound familiar? What have we been told from the get-go? Shut up, sit down, and butt out.
And they did a good job. I mean, they stomped hard.
Stomped by the TBI. First, the TBI attacked them in the media. without warning, did not conduct investigation to law enforcement standards. The erroneous television reports have led to false leads, public concern, and have wasted valuable state resources, said TBI Director Mark Gwynn. Harmful to the case, misleading, detrimental. But now we know on the very day of the press release, the TBI was lost. The TBI lead investigator believed Terry Britt abducted Holly. They had stopped investigating the A-gang.
I was wasting my time.
Wasting your time doing what?
Investigating these idiots.
And then the TBI admits the magnitude of that error.
Was it a mistake?
Yes, sir. It was a mistake.
Was it a bad mistake?
Yes, sir.
Is it 3 years later you figure out how bad it was?
Yeah. That's right.
Think about this for a moment. The TBI didn't even check the alibis of the A-gang, while the private investigators have the A-gang on the top of their suspect list.
Right. It is very profound to look back and see that we were on the right track.
The TBI was through investigating the A-gang, but they weren't through investigating without warning. They got judicial subpoenas, sent men to Wysocki's home, and interrogated her.
They were intimidating me. They were threatening me. They were aggressive.
All for information the detectives say they volunteered to give the TBI before ever going on television. Wysocki says she spent thousands on a defense attorney, worried that she was going to jail. She says they subpoenaed her Google account and got all of her emails, including personal emails, to her family and attorney. Humiliating and expensive for a woman who just wanted to help.
I will not do a case like this again. And I try not to work in Tennessee because I was threatened. And one of the things I was told is don't speed. Are you kidding me? I'm a law-abiding person helping a family, and I'm told not to speed. That's a little over the edge.
And not the only story of bullying in the Holly Bobo case. Remember ginseng hunter Larry Stone? He found Holly's skull. The bullet hole in the skull corroborated Jason Autry's story. This was a huge break in the case. But Stone says the TBI treated him poorly when he discovered Holly's remains.
Then the officer looks at me and asked me why I was out looking for Holly Bobo. And I said, well, I didn't know they'd call searches. He said, ain't nobody supposed to be looking for Holly Bobo. And I said, whoa. I said, if this was my kid or your kid, you'd be out here looking for it, wouldn't you?
Another private citizen just trying to help in a case that obviously needed a lot of help.
Does that sound familiar to you guys? Nobody's allowed to look. How many times have we heard that in the Summer Wells case? Nobody's allowed to look.
I think it's the scariest thing to have that kind of power to say that they were going to throw me in jail and to know that they could do it with nobody looking over them.
How many times have I said that's a problem? That TBI, LE, nobody, that they do not answer to anybody, and that is a scary thought.
This was the most expensive and most exhaustive investigation in the history of the state of Tennessee. And yet, when they came to 2013, they had nothing. They had a great big goose egg. They paid all this money and they had absolutely nothing to show for it. And the citizens of Decatur County, the family of Holly Bobo, and the public at large all wanted answers.
That was the most expensive search until the Summer Wells case. I'm still curious. They brought in U.S. Marshals, SWAT team, everything. My question has been from the beginning and still is so, why did the mother know specifically that wasn't her daughter's boyfriend? Why was she demanding that her son pew-pew this man? I mean, it should have happened, but how did she know? Just listen up and you'll hear it, guys.
Drew was Holly's boyfriend at that time. But that morning, a mother's instinct kicked in. Karen knew something wasn't right.
And I don't know what made me say it. This instant panic came over me and I said, that's not Drew. Call all the neighbors, I think is what I said. And then I ran over to the office and I called 911. I don't remember exactly what I said, but I remember they said it was Henderson County. We live in Decatur County, so I hung up. I think I fell on the floor at that point. And I guess I called Clint back, but I don't really remember now if it was from the library phone or the office phone, and he was still talking about, was Holly not going to school today when she turkey hunting with Drew? And I said, that's not Drew. And at some point I said, get a gun and shoot him.
What got Holly? They grabbed her and took her to the woods. Please, get everybody out there.
Okay, they're on their way, sweetie. They're on their way right now.
By the time Holly's father, Dana, arrived at his home, it was already a crime scene.
The yard was full of people, cops and people, and FBI was there, U.S. Marshals was there.
So U.S. Marshals, FBI, TBI.
A SWAT team, I remember them pulling up. It was people wandering, standing, fiddling, just like nobody, it was kind of like nobody knew what to do. That's the way I took it at the time.
At some point in the middle of the morning, did you lose patience with an FBI agent and tell him what he should go do? What did you say?
I couldn't tell you who it was.
That's all right.
I told him, if y'all think one of us done it, I was talking about me and Clint and Karen that was still left there. I said, if y'all think one of us done it, 10 of y'all stay here with us and the rest of you go do something. And it probably wasn't that nice of words when I said it.
But you wanted somebody to do something.
Yes, ma'am.
You wanted Holly.
Yes.
Back.
Immediately.
From the best I can understand, guys, it took them, even though they had the local law enforcement, TBI, FBI, U.S. Marshals, the SWAT team, it took these people over 2 hours before they ever even started searching for Holly Bobo, even though they knew what direction this man had took her in. What you're seeing on screen now is when they're in court 6 years later. The first time the mom had seen Holly's belongings since she had went missing, and this is when the defense requested a mistrial take place. They wanted everything just thrown out, and this is the judge's answer.
It's going to be impossible for her to get a fair trial, for Mr. Adams to get a fair trial from an impartial jury. I think they're so tainted at this point.
The judge refused the request.
This was clearly a medical event. There's no question. This was not something fake to gain sympathy.
After seeing this, could these jurors set aside their feelings?
This is hard in any case, but in the case of Holly Bobo, which was so compelling and so sympathetic, it was almost impossible for those jurors to decide the case without any sympathy whatsoever.
The last family member of the jury is still awaiting trial. But the question remains, why did it take prosecutors 3 years for an indictment? On the stand, Special Agent Brent Booth, who later came to head up the investigation, admitted his agency was partly to blame.
The left hand didn't know what the right hand was doing. We were feeding all of this information in, and we didn't realize what was there. Their alibis or their stories were not checked out.
Not
thoroughly.
checked out. Was it a mistake?
Yes, it was a mistake.
Was it a bad mistake?
Yes, sir.
Is it 3 years later you figure out how bad it was?
Yeah.
So as they said, how are the suspects in this case supposed to get a fair trial, knowing all the sympathy that went out to the mother as she passed out in the courtroom, knowing that TBI screwed up the investigation, they didn't check on the correct things, they didn't look into alibis for the suspects, you know, the TBI just turned it into a circus. Local law enforcement and TBI turned the Holly Bobo into a circus as far as what's right and what's wrong and how the laws are supposed to apply and legal defense, that kind of stuff. What's going to stop if we ever find Summer Wells, if we ever find out who did what to her or what happened to her, how are we going to ensure that the trial doesn't lead to a mistrial, that the suspects, whoever they may be, don't holler they were unfairly judged because of the public input or because of YouTube or because TBI literally just screwed it up from the get-go. Oh, and local law enforcement, let's not forget them. Guys, tell me what you think. I know this was a little weird, the video, but I just find a lot of similarities between the Holly Bobo case and what has went on for the past 18 months in the Summer Wells case. And I just want your thoughts. Who truly has screwed up the Summer Wells case? Is it the media and YouTube and, all the social platforms like Ronnie Lawson and all of them and TBI try to accuse? Or was it local law enforcement, Ronnie Lawson and TBI, who have screwed up the Summer Wells case? Tell me your thoughts on it, and I'll see you on the next video. God bless.